All right. Is this thing on? Check it, check it, check. Checking. All right. Okay. Okay, so here we go. We got Parliament Roundup today. We have Mark Carney. He took some questions today on the speech from the throne. The basic bottom line is he's answering questions. The last Parliament was more obfuscate and send out their message, while Carney and other liberals, by the way, you must have sent the order down, is basically taking questions, assessing it, and then answering the question. Not necessarily always to the opposition's delight, but they're at least touching on the question. It's must be much less frustrating, or much more frustrating, one or the other for the opposition. It's harder to show exasperation when you ask a hardline question and then they give you a sensible answer and reply. And it's like, But if people that are watching it and they give an unsensible reply, that's just, you know what I mean? The average viewer is like, well, this is awful. So yeah, it's no one watching yet. Maybe we'll have 0 viewers. But yeah, that's what we had there. This Glenn McLean has been outstanding. Well, maybe it'll always be 0. Glenn McLean has been the voice of reason from the Conservatives. We didn't see Andrew Scheer today. I don't know what was that about. There's the talk about, I don't know what the Liberals' plan is to deal with this anti-Semitism that's going on, but there should be some kind of plan, like maybe enforce the law, or possibly like give out warnings, something like that in campuses. Like, they're dealing with it down south in America. We should be dealing with it here. It's mostly, I think, on the campuses in big cities. I seen a protest from, I think it was Rebel News had it. There was only a dozen people out there. It really wasn't a big deal. But it starts with, like I actually was listening to Fox. I listen to all the news, and I'll give you, like they said, it starts with rhetoric. So all you got to do is deal it nicely with the rhetoric, and then it probably won't go from there. Just keep it to keep it down. And I think it's solved at the lowest level. Just like, I pissed off a lot of people on my commenters when they say something that would be tinged off, or the algorithm automatically flags them. I just let them know, hey, that comment was flagged, and you don't even know. You may or may not. You can find, there's ways of knowing, but most people, like myself, I never knew if, and then people are like, oh. Most of the time, 90 or 80, more than 80% of the people, once you say, hey, that comment is up, they're like, oh, really? Oh, okay. And then, they'll change. Of course, it's small. When it was the rhetoric, right? Good thought. First of the time, if you can change someone's thoughts, well, you can't do that. I'm not into that. And then it's the words, right? But you can stop the words. That's not a good way. But you can, say, hey, those words are off. And if they tell you where to go, okay, fine. Just letting you know, the algorithm, right? It's not me, it's the algorithm. But it, or in the other case, it could, it's the law. And then you don't have to worry about the deeds, right? Thoughts, words, deeds. And you try to change the hearts and minds first. Obviously, a good politician is on that. Hello. Oh, Gwen Cott. Your other account's okay if that's who it is. But yeah, it's actually Zoroastrianism, and I love it. I just thoughts, words, and deeds. I never thought about it before. Sometimes I'd have an uncolorful thought of, whatever. Not racist, just like, you know what I mean, against a person, usually against their attire or something like that. And it's best to say, like, to yourself, why am I thinking like that? What does that help you any? You know what I mean? Don't let that thought go in your mind, and then you won't have a word slip, like it won't slip out. Like, yeah, whatever. You're silly shoes or something, right? I don't know. Most of the time, I don't really have that many bad thoughts against people. But and then you're definitely not going to have a problem with the D's. More so with me would be like the party scene. You know what I mean? If I don't think about partying, like now, I don't party or whatever. If I don't go smoking cigarettes. If I don't think about smoking cigarettes, because I quit years ago now, if I don't think about it, the chances are me talking about it are like really small. Sometimes, right? Like, I talk about how I don't like the smell. It's autumn, and I'm one of these non-smokers that is like, ooh, Puma! I don't do it. I try to keep that out of my mind if there's anyone smokers around. But it's very abhorrent to me now. And then definitely, if I'm not thinking and I'm not talking about it, well, then the chances of me smoking are very, very slim to zero. But that's what I think. I think that we should be. That's what politicians like this idea of Alberta separating. The politicians should be trying to change hearts and minds. This McLean guy, I'm going to put on first. I'm just going to give about 5 minutes of Greg McLean. I think he is leading the way on the way to be the Conservatives should lead in the next, at least for the next year, because the next year no one wants to see an election, okay? Unless like possibly something very large, like an asteroid's coming to the Earth, or something like this. Basically, the world, the Canadians do not want to see another election in a year. It spends a lot of money. We've already decided, like, it's just so. What he does in his speech here today, he says, 60% of what you guys are doing good, not as good as I would do. Thank you for stealing my ideas, but these 40% I don't really agree with. But I'll let you guys go. And that's, to me, I think he's being honest. That's all he's doing is being honest, and being right about it. Just being honest, right? And that's the way it should be. Instead of just worrying about getting the clip and stoking more anger, because it just doesn't matter. Like, there's no need to stoke anger because he ain't going to election anyway. You might as well get along, get through it, get as much of the stuff that you want done as possible, is my opinion. Before, right? Get as much as you want it done. Be good about it. Instead of this, they're all going to put them in jail. Carney's like, this is, I do understand there was a lot of ethics violations. The government was having a lot of issues, and they were obfuscating, and they weren't giving him files. Well, all of that, like, you know what I mean? The toilet got flushed, and now it's a new turd, okay? So, and it doesn't stink yet. Like, give it time to make some bad air. All right, so I'm going to put on a Greg McLean.
Crime, seriously, thank you very much. I'm almost going to be, it's almost like I'm talking to my own colleagues here on this side of the House with all of the great things that were in that speech from the throne. So I appreciate that that the other side of the House has actually come to the realization that this is something that Canadians are experiencing. So I'm congratulating them on the excellent parts of this speech, including, by the way, the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program, which again was promulgated by this side of the House as far as an idea to advance Indigenous reconciliation, economic reconciliation across this country. But this government fails at a few things in this speech from the throne. Number one, it's not particularly ambitious, although I realize it's high level. At the same time, it has to address a number of issues. This Prime Minister, in his speech from the throne, has talked about spending less and investing more. And this is where I am critical of financial subterfuge, because this is subterfuge. This government and its predecessor government has run advancing deficits for years and years and years. And you look at the Liberal program during the election, it increased that budget deficit this coming year and for the foreseeable future to over $60 billion per year. That is the planned deficit. That is not the actual deficit. That is the planned deficit. Events always come forth here that are going to actually push that higher, because I guarantee you, and I'll tell this to my colleagues on this side of the bench, there's going to be nothing you see that actually reduces that number. So financial subterfuge and fooling Canadians about what they're spending by putting it in a different category is nonsense. get real, and let me say that to the Prime Minister, these are economic measures that we measure ourselves by in Canada to make sure we are not throwing the baby out with the bathwater as far as the economic future of Canadians goes. But I'm going to quote the speech from the throne here, which was written by the Prime Minister and his staff. He quotes, day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year. Surprise. The government will introduce measures to bring it below 2%. And then goes on to say transfers to provinces, territories, or individuals will be maintained. The government will balance its operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, capping the public service, ending duplication, and deploying technology to improve public sector productivity. Boy, I could have written some of that myself, but I'm going to ask him, if you're limiting the growth to 2% as far as the operating budget goes, and inflation is at 4%, then how do you continue to fund the provinces that have to fund health care if you're penalizing them as far as the money you're transferring them goes? Inflation is going to be a factor here, has been a factor, and will grow to be a factor as you continue with these large budget deficits. This is a problem that's going to have to be addressed sooner rather than later. Hiding the numbers in an operating budget or an investing budget is not solving the problem at all. This government has a spending problem, and you've got to address the spending problem. Now I'm going to get to something I'm really critical of in this, and that is, and I'll quote the government again, critically, the government will undertake a series of measures to help double the rate of home building while creating an entirely new housing industry using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber. The government will introduce measures to deliver affordable homes by creating Build Canada homes. And then it goes on to say the government will drive supply up to bring housing costs down. Contradiction to what the housing minister himself said about not bringing houses down, price housing down. But proof's in the pudding again here, and let me challenge the other side of the aisle here, because over the past 8 years, 2016 to 2024, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, as a budget, went from $2 billion a year to $5 billion a year, all the while building about 40,000 more homes in that period per year. That's 40,000 homes by an extra $3 billion per year. $75,000 per home, do the math. Okay, 75,000, and the result was they drove up the price of housing by $200,000, 45%. So great success on that side of the bench. You're driving up the price of housing, and you're making Canadians more indebted. So as far as a Canadian Build Canada homes, you're blowing the budget every time, and your results aren't there. Figure something else out. I've actually spoken to the housing minister, and I said, you need a restart. This continuing to spend is not solving anything. Get back to a solution where actually house prices can come down, and that starts with your own house. That starts with balancing the budget. One thing we haven't seen here, of course, in this lead up to this parliament is the commitment to a budget. Now, that is one of the most fundamental democratic instruments that we have here in parliament to hold the government to account for what they're going to spend. And we have seen none of that at this point in time. When's the last time this happened? The last time it's been more than 150 days since there was a budget was when Ralph Goodale was the Liberal finance minister back in 2005. The last time we didn't have a spring budget, because the House of Commons, the Government of Canada, operates from April to March 31st. The last time that happened was over 25 years ago. So this is something where you've got to start respecting the rules of Parliament, the rules of running this country, the accountability you owe Canadian people, and the transparency that's required. So I do challenge the government to do better. There's much that was in this, but there's much that could be much better. And I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Hey.
Well put, Lightning Rod. Lightning Rod's on the comments. Well, I recognize your name, but I don't know who you are, obviously. Unless, who on earth wants the value of their home to drop? And what exactly would that mean to the economy? This is, I totally agree. And I've been saying, at first I've been saying we got to fix the housing crisis at all costs. And then I thought about it. I thought, well, there's a lot of older people who are depending on this market that ballooned, and they all knew it was going to balloon. And by hurting them, it's not their fault for them investing in something they knew was going up. And it'll feel like a loss to them if their house devalues. So what I believe, and I think that Carney alluded to it, but he didn't say how they're going to do it. He says we're going to be, and he said this, laser focused on low income housing. So I don't know what that means. So starter homes. So basically, if he were to be focusing on a small section of new homes that smaller units for first-time home buyers that basically won't affect the market. That'll be basically outside the market because the house. If you were to build houses and cheap houses and give that. Well, that could destroy the market. But if you're going to build low-rise 7-story buildings, 5-story buildings with smaller units, people they'll be happy they have a home, right? But then after about a year or 2 years, they're going to be like, we got to get some bigger. We need some. I want some grass. I want to cut the lawn, and that's right. And this is it. They have to build homes that people really don't want, but they're happy with it compared to not having a home. So they can get into the market. Basically, it's like putting an extra step in. And I think that's the only way. But them focusing on just building more homes, I don't think that's the answer. I think really the answer is focus on the people that are the real problem, having the biggest problem. And that's the low first-time home buyers, not the millionaire kids. Who you know what I mean? They're going to be able to get a home no matter what. They can buy a custom builder to build their home. We don't need. I don't think we should be spending money on the government money on that. I do think that we should having low income homes, which is basically apartment buildings, but in condos, right? Sell them off. That's my opinion. And so I think he makes some points, but I do like the way. McLean, the C post of building. What is C post? I don't know what that means. Maybe I do. I just can you elaborate? The C post of building 2,000 square foot homes is $350K. That's it. I think we need to. I think what the government should do personally is forget all of the other things and put real hundreds of $billions into building small units for the people that are basically don't have family to give them the down payment. And then it's not over. Everyone's like, oh, well, you get a home. It's not over when you have the down payment. It's not over. People are thinking, yeah, okay, everything's going to be Shangri-La. You now you have the rest of your life. You're going to pay off this $1 million mortgage. It's ridiculous. And there's no real step up in my area. $700,000 is the lowest for price home. $700,000, and we're talking 7 years ago. You could get a home for $60,000, $70,000. People bought a decade ago. I know someone bought a house for $70,000. It's going for $1 million. This is, it's basically going to down the whole industry. Once people have no spending income, then they can't buy other things, right? There's no disposable income. All the other small businesses, there is none. It puts a depression on everything except the banks. The banks make more money, 80% of your money going into. It's not good on the economy, and it's a depressing thing for people. Everyone I've known with a large mortgage has been very, very, very unhappy, and it ain't going to help society. I believe, cost. Thank you. It makes really rude. It makes rude people that are willing to screw over their neighbor for $5. I've seen it. They call it house poor, and then they're looking for any conspiracy theory. That's what I believe. The conspiracy theory part of it is there's too many people with mortgage debt problems that are worrying way too late in the night. I think it's a part of the problem of their society in Canada, and why we're having these political jives. But this is me. I don't know nothing. But yeah. This isn't the price here in the Niagara region. I can pull up MLS. Actually, I think I may. I'll just put up MLS and we'll have a little look-see around MLS as we're going to do this. And here, I'll put up a picture first because I'm not going to show this. And hey, might as well go on this side. I'm going to try to do this every day now. I don't know what else to do, man. I got. You don't even know the sheer amount of starting a political channel was probably not the greatest idea. It's not just politics now. I get there's people that like I know like, well, I don't like your politics. So what, man? I'm not. I'm here for the working class, and I'm not. People have gone too far, and it's not good. And this is another thing. The CBC is like, oh, we have a problem. There's not enough workers. So I looked on Indeed. I'm like, okay, let's look for all the plumbing positions. Zero. The whole Niagara region, zero plumbing positions they're looking for. So you know what I mean? Come on. It's just like they're looking for excuses for the government, and that ain't the case. Like, come on. So Niagara. Oh, Niagara Falls. Nice Niagara Falls. You zoom right in, and now we're gonna look. Oh, so now we can put this up for you. Let's look at this together, there, fella. Lightning rod. You can lightning rod me later. Okay, so what? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're gonna put on the max price will be $1 million, because I just want to see the thing. And then what's the lowest price homes? First, I got to see transaction for sale. I got to do a filter, property type. It's got to be a residential home. Okay. And okay, so let's look for. I'll start at 500,000. Do we have 500,000? 500,000. Oh, there are. Oh, look at me, a liar. Okay. All right. Okay. So here we go. And these are in where? Thorold. 500,000. Okay, so there's the lowest cutoff. Let's see if we have lower. Do we have 400,000? 400,000. That's a townhouse, mind you. Oh, we do. No, we don't. 469. Okay, we're gonna I'm gonna have to narrow this up. 400 to 5. Okay, so do we have 300,000? Let's go for 300,000. Oh, there is a $300,000. There we go, 389,000 in. There we go, the cheapest house. That is what they call a wartime house. Here, there we go. I shouldn't put someone's, but that's what you call a wartime house. That was built by the government for 400,000. So hey, I'm a bit of a liar, but that's not Niagara Falls. Okay, do we have 200,000? Let's see. Do we have 200,000? Oh my God, I'm lying. Look at this. Is the market changed? Like I haven't looked in about 8 months. We have one. Oh, that's not a home. And won't load because it's not real. No, land. Oh, we have one downtown Niagara. Oh, I know this house. This was like a house. There we go, and it's for home is in need of repair. Oh yeah, you know who's living there. But yeah, here. This is basically your cheapest. It's a nice, decent house. So 300,000. You're right. What's your name here? Lightning Rod. You're right. 300,000. You got a home that you got some work. You got about $50,000. It's a nice home, actually. It was, but it was. You can see dogs. They had lots of dogs. There was a bit of a. It's wide open in the back. So that's not even a livable home right now. Probably mold issues. We're not even going to go there. I don't know what happened to the back there. Someone started a reno and then did some whiskey. You know. Let's flood zone. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. The Niagara region, or your basic home, is $300,000. So, there we go. So $300,000 for 650 square feet. You're 100% right. 650,000, and it's like needs major work Fire and feces discounted. Oh yeah, I know the home. I remember, like, you know what I mean. It was the one that you you didn't look at, right? Don't look at the owner. Don't look at the owner. They're outside. They're outside. You know, it was. I think they were renting it, so it wasn't the owner. But that's it. That's what we got in this country. So my thinking is there's a lot of people who've won the lottery. They bought that home 10 years ago for $30,000, $50,000, and now they've won the lottery. And so now the only way, I think, to keep that lottery win is to have the government incentivize these one small type of building that aren't they're not ugly, but they're not marketed as a great building. They're marketed as a starter place or an apartment rental or low income rental. So basically, you know what I mean, you can screw with people. They'll want to move out. They'll move in, and then in 1 month, 3 months later, they'll want to move out. They'll live there for long until they can afford it. But it gets them onto the ladder without destroying the other markets and not putting government money. This is what was happening. The last plan was just helping the permit process so they could build $1 million homes. Well, because there is a demand for $1 million plus homes. Like there is still there's a demand for all levels of home pricing. And in Toronto, it was $700,000 was the home pricing for sure for condos. I just looked at a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to. I don't want to go too much into it, but like I said, this is the Niagara region. This was it's Niagara Falls service industry. Okay, Niagara Falls is 90% of the jobs are service industry. And then here's a manager who don't make that much. It's not like. And then there's the maintenance and all this stuff. It's all service, and there was factories, but they've both basically packed up and left the country, right? There's a lot of service industry, but blue collar working place. This isn't a wealthy, super duper area. You know what I mean? It never has been, and that's just the cheapest home. So people are putting 80% of their earnings into homes just to live, and it creates stress on everything, right? It's part of the factor. You get into a home and you borrow off a home. It's not. I personally don't believe that our society should put so much into housing. It ruins our ingenuity, and right, we've sold out to not just China, any country who's producing stuff now. Like honestly. If I was 20 years old now, I would not. There's no way I would be silly enough to stay. I'd probably move to India. India is a very fast-growing area. There's a lot of opportunities. There's growth. There's factories. Maybe the States, but it's Canada right now. Just because you're home, you're never going to afford them. Europe. I can go check out German homes. They're cheaper. Like you can get a German home like outside of Berlin. Like Berlin's a very big city. Lots of opportunity in cities. And you can buy 15 minutes, 20 minutes outside the city, couple $300,000 for a Berlin city, not like Niagara region where it's a lot of rural and there ain't huge opportunities. It's a great place. I love it. I love it here. It's beautiful land. I love the land. I love the rivers. I love the lakes. I like the canals. I love the falls. But the prices are awful. This is the housing problem needs to be fixed for this first-time home buyer, or else we're just going to have a problem. This is my little rant of the day. But that's this McLean.
The honourable member for Toronto St. Paul. No. Who? Questions and comments. Sorry, questions and comments. Okay. Who? Over here. The honourable member for. Remind me here.
King's Hands.
King's Hands, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me start by saying congratulations to you on your election to the chair. Very well deserved, and I know you will keep us in good standing here in this House. I'd like to thank the honourable member from Calgary Centre, I believe it is, for his remarks. Even if we don't always agree, I think he does deliver his speeches here with a level of class and professionalism that should be the way in which this place operates. I listened to portions of his speech. I will admit I didn't hear the entirety. He talks about the importance of balancing budgets. I think that obviously perhaps maybe he missed in the speech from the throne that the Prime Minister and this government has committed to an operational balance within 3 years, Mr. Speaker. I think that that is extremely important. I hope he would agree. But he must also acknowledge and recognize that we do have major expenditures in defense, in the investment in housing, in infrastructure. Surely he's not talking about complete balanced budget and absolutely not investing in those critical infrastructure that's needed in the time for the country.
The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for the comments on the other side, and I thank him for the question. Every government has to make choices. The continuation of just blowing Canadians' money is putting a burden on future generations of Canadians. It's putting a burden on inflation. It's creating a monetary mess in this country. We are going to have to address it. We do have to make choices. And yes, Mr. Speaker, as the member will probably know, even my party during this election, we projected deficits for the next 4 years, and balancing that going down to a much smaller number than this government has put forward for the next 5 years. So it's a directionally much different government as far as making choices and not throwing out the baby with the bathwater for the future, so future Canadians can actually spend on the programs they're going to need rather than spending on the programs that were delivered by their parents and their grandparents. Thank you very much.
Seniors are cutting back our fiscal house in order. As a Conservative, I believe the government
Here's a new MP, Tamara. Sorry, I don't catch her last name, and she's Lady Smith. And here's her speech from a nice area. We can give a little another conservative angle. She has more of a somewhat conservative view. Let's see what she has to say.
I've sat with grieving parents who have had to bury children. I've spoken with first responders who are stretched to the limits. I've door knocked in neighborhoods in my community where despair has become the daily norm. The people of Nanaimo Ladysmith are compassionate, Mr. Speaker. We care deeply about our neighbors, but our patience is running thin. We want real treatment, real recovery, and real results. As a lawyer, I've seen what happens when the system prioritizes bureaucracy over justice. As a legislator, I intend to help fix it. As a Conservative, I believe the government...
Okay, this is my biggest problem with the Conservatives right now is that they're not acknowledging the fact that the legal system is underwater and it's being taken over by those that are making billions of dollars on the opioid epidemic, and the law is being fandangled with to a harsh degree, and the police can't keep up with it. The Law and Order Party is basically saying these people are bad when the system is not. It's not the same, is it anymore? And then there isn't and then it's like, wow, this person's a burden. Well, there isn't work for blue collar work, and then the home prices, especially she's out in BC. These homes, they're ridiculous. $300,000 for a shit and feces. Oh, pardon my French. For a feces and fire home, right? And then you're just like, well, they're a problem. Wait a second, you can't even minimum wage jobs don't even afford an apartment here. You got to have shack up. The system is a major creation, but they have their talking points from 20 years ago. This is 20-year-old talking point when there's real problems that the police literally cannot. They can't deal with the people that are in the tents. That's not even able to be dealt with. They can't deal with the largest amount of deaths, opioid deaths since World War II. They can't control this as a problem. The only thing that we have so far on the opioid crisis, the only win, there's one win. First of all, they were giving them out in BC. I don't know, Ontario. But the only win we've got is they're saying, and I don't know how the hell they know this, that the amount of opioids that are crossing the border are down 90%. Now what? They're just not using the border crossing points probably anymore. You know what I mean? And how do you know? How do you know what's going across? They know, okay. The only win we've had since this opioid epidemic, more people dying in Canada than the States, and they're saying, well, we're getting a handle. Well, no, the police are not doing. They can't. They've literally said they can't keep cybercrime down. There's daytime shoot. Now, crime they're saying is going down, the violent crime and stuff like that. But I don't think that they can get a handle on the drug crime. I personally think that needs a major push. It doesn't have to happen for a long time, but there needs to be a major push to get this done. Like they're starting in the States. Trump is doing these major things that are pissing everyone off because it's they've recognized that police forces they just can't handle it. Underwater is what I got to say. But these conservative talking points are literally, they're just like, well, how come you know? How come that we're not fixing the problem? Your government's giving out drugs.
Government should do fewer things, but do
Vermin.
them well.
Vermin.
That starts with getting our fiscal house in order so that we can have the resources to help those who need it. The cost of living is truly out of control. Seniors are cutting back on essentials, splitting pills, and skipping meals. Families are working harder than ever but falling further behind. For many young people, and a lot of people who are not so young, the dream of home ownership feels like a wall they can never scale. After a decade of overspending, Canadians are sick of paying more and getting less. Inflation is eating into paychecks in a way that just can't be fixed with a modest tax cut spaced over a couple of years. Mortgage payments are crushing young families now. Groceries are unaffordable now. Tariffs are threatening our jobs and businesses now. Canadians cannot wait for relief until next fall or next spring. Canadians need relief now. We also need bold action on housing, Mr. Speaker. In Nanaimo, I've met single parents forced into unsafe living conditions just to keep a roof over their heads. In Ladysmith, families are being priced out of the very communities they helped build. We don't have enough homes, and the answer isn't buzzwords, it's builders. It's not another department or agency or czar. It's more shovels in the ground, in the hands of workers earning good wages to support their families.
Hear, hear.
We must slash red tape, eliminate delays, and confront any ideology that stands in the way of building. Yes. We must invest in skilled trades, in the very people whose hands will build the future. Recently, I had the pleasure of watching culinary arts students at Vancouver Island University reclaim the record for the world's largest Nanaimo bar. And yes, I did get to sample it, and yes, it was delicious. But even that sweet moment was overshadowed by the bitter reality of financial distress, in part due to the federal government's disastrous and abrupt changes in immigration policies. You see, VIU was already staring down a deficit that caused it to cancel all of its music programs and end its relationship with Elder College. Now, VIU has no choice as a result of this government's immigration about-face but to propose suspending 6 additional programs and canceling 13 others entirely, including the dental assistance program I would have thought necessary to deliver dental care, the Master of Community Planning program that is needed to build the houses this government claims it wants, and the graduate diploma in hospitality management that is vital to our tourism industry. VIU is an economic anchor of Nanaimo Ladysmith, as well as a cherished community institution. What VIU needs, what we all need, is clear, predictable immigration policy and better coordination across governments, universities, and industries. Mr. Speaker, Canada must also reclaim its economics independence.
Okay, on that, all those kids that went to culinary school, they won't be able to afford a home unless they have, unless they're dealing drugs on the side. That's basically it, and that's not going to help our population increase. And it's basically we'll be replacing. And I'm not don't advocate for any of the this is awful. We have, in my opinion, we have enough legal that why the hell would anything, they think any further stretching of the legal limit of it, the drugs would be good in any shape, way, or form. It's just a drain on the society, and it manufacturing jobs and blue collar jobs just don't seem to be important to many people. And there's not like there's a boom somewhere. There's no boom anymore. It's not like you can send people to Churchill. So that's Tamara. I think she's pretty good. She's new. She's from Ladysmith, in a nice area. But the basic bottom line is coming and going, right? The housing crisis. The thing is, the reason why I'm thinking that the Liberals could do it is the Conservatives were saying we won't spend any more money. We need to get our house in order and not spend any money. But the Liberals made the problem so big that it's going to take I think even $100 billion on direct build money, nothing else, not for this agency, not for that company, directly into working into the jobs and to building the place to fix this. It's just not going to be fixed. And $300,000, like the lowest price home is $300,000. You could be snapped up in a time in the Niagara region. That's pretty freaking horrible, right? And then there's, of course, other expenses. So anyone making under $100,000, you can't afford that. You can't even afford to live there. Never mind your car or anything, any extra expenses. It's the joke was, okay, young people used to, we can't get young people home. Now it's you probably won't ever, But we can't, and also we can't handle these elderly people that, you know what I mean, your broken hip. Well, there's so many people, we can't handle that either. Oh, the drug epidemic. Well, we can't arrest all the people. We can't get a handle of. So the unfortunate problem is we need to increase the tax base, and the tax base is not helping investor class. They don't pay the taxes. They don't pay the percentages as much as some working hourly rate schmuck like myself. They need to create the jobs, and like I said, look. There's not one. The whole Niagara region, okay, it's 500,000 people. Not one in the last month. There's one from 30 days ago. Not one plumbing position available. So this idea that they said, like Conservatives said, we're going to invest in training 350,000 new skilled. Yeah. First, you got to make the jobs. We're making less homes this year than last year. Okay, so that's my thinking, and I'm not trying to smash her in particular. I think she's pretty good. She seems like a fairly good conservative about it. However, if you don't have a real solution, I don't see. Basically, what it is just throwing the gauntlet weight, saying, "Oh, everything's a problem, and who's the solution? We're just going to go throw more money at the. Remember, if you're selling drugs, you now are a rich person in society. Yeah, yeah. We need more factory work to clean up the towns. I know what my town is like. It's got really bad. It's disgusting. It's like, oh my God, you are the rich guy in town. They go, and the cops, they can't get him. They'll never get him or her. It's unbelievable. And then we got conservatives who don't even know what the law is anymore. Okay, here we go. This is Tamara. This is Tamara. She does a pretty good speech, and this is all on housing. We got 3 on housing. Tamara Jansen, I think she's a pretty good MP. Fairly eloquent speaker, and here we go.
Mr. Speaker, I recently talked with a young fellow who said, unless my parents die and leave me this house, I will never own one. Now, that's a reality for many young Canadians. So imagine their shock when they hear that the new housing minister says that home prices don't need to come down. Under this former mayor of Vancouver, house prices shot up 179%, rent up 50%, homelessness.
Personally, I think my only chance, and any other, there's only one of us here. I've been shut down. I'm just hoping to make enough money to move to a rural part of the country and hope that I get some work, say, in here in the Niagara region, pay for the house. Because there are, like, places in Manitoba. You can get a home for $50,000, $100,000 for a home. And and you just work 3-4 months in the Niagara region and stay in a hotel kind of room, and then you can afford to live there. That's honestly the plan that I have. It's not ideal. I don't even know any of these towns. I don't know the area. I don't know anyone there. But it's the only way that makes sense for someone who's buying. You know what I mean? You're going to get. I should have bought one earlier. I didn't realize. But I didn't feel I'm like the traveling, going from town. I didn't realize that homes in my area would be $400,000 for an old wartime home. Which is ridiculous. And to me, I just don't see the value in buying and staying in the area for that. It's 4 times more, 5 times more than really what it's worth to me. So it's basically get the hell out. And it was the Maritimes, but the Maritimes have gotten expensive. It's now in Saskatchewan, these rural towns. And then you go work in the oil patch for a few months of the year, or you work in the Niagara, or you go work in Toronto, stay in a hotel, like a Bates Motel, cheapest motel you can find, and then do your 3 months, and then you can pay your bills. That's it. That's really what we're at. There's no other solution that's to me that makes sense. Renting around here is really high. It's it's really big. So it makes no sense to stay here. Food, everything's gone up because of it. If and it's just a ridiculous place. You take the money and get the hell out to a small town where you can buy a reasonable house, like a little bit of a plot, That's it. There's mobile homes around here. I don't really want to do
This up 40%. If he didn't fix it then, doesn't see a problem now, how much more expensive does he plan to let things get?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, my thanks to the member opposite for the question. We are spending many days this week with mayors and councillors from across the country here for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meeting here. And I would caution the members opposite to be insulting our local government officials who we are partnering with to deliver results on the ground. We will deliver a cut to the GST for first-time home buyers.
That's right.
We're going to see a $50,000 savings for first-time home buyers delivered by this new government.
Yeah, very good.
The Honourable Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the housing market in the GTA is descending into complete chaos. New data shows GTA home sales are the worst since the market crash of the 1990s, falling 89% below the 10-year average. And condo sales fell 94% below the 10-year average. Home prices are too high for buyers and too low for sellers. Sellers can't sell, buyers can't buy, builders aren't building. The report warns that there will be a massive housing shortage in just 2 years. Can the Prime Minister tell us why he refuses to present a budget immediately to provide much-needed help for both buyers and sellers?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The critical piece that we need to invest in is more affordable housing across Canada right now. And we are doing that by delivering a GST cut for new home buyers. We are doing that by reducing the costs of housing through development cost charges. We're working in partnership with local governments to deliver that. We have to be sure we build more affordable housing for young people and those most vulnerable across our country.
Honourable Member for York, Durham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. New data out this week shows that home sales in the GTA are down 89% below their 10-year average. That's not a slowdown, Mr. Speaker. That is a market stall. What's the Prime Minister's response? A GST proposal that industry has dismissed, saying it will not improve affordability. So my question to the Prime Minister, what is his plan today, not in September, for buyers who can't buy, sellers who can't sell, and builders who can't build?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So we do have good news coming with the GST cut for first-time home buyers. We are seeing a stall in the market as people wait for that cut. We hope that the members opposite will support that cut.
That's right. They should.
We're also going to focus on building more housing on the affordable end of the spectrum. That's what the young people of Canada need. That's what we need to deliver in this House for the people of Canada.
Member for Oshawa. Member for Swift Current.
All right. Okay. So that's the housing file, and they keep saying this about Toronto. It's around 700,000 lowest price 1-bedroom condos is what I've seen on even CBC, the lowest price, and like for a 1-bedroom in Toronto, where so basically that cuts anyone out who isn't university. And a decent university job, that is, right? Engineering, a lawyer, whatever. It cuts most people out of the market altogether. Drug dealers are fine. That's just a ludicrous thing. And we know no one's getting caught, right? So that's where we're at. And they said since the 90s, the selling market hasn't fixed. So this is what I mean is they have to put $100 billion into this, but I honestly don't think that there's the solution thus far will fix the problem. Toronto is coming into a tailspin really, really fast in the last few months. And this is this is the busy sale time of year. It's over in August, which is only a few months away. Once August hits, that's always the dip in home sales. So will we see a big increase in that time? No. They're talking about dropping $50,000 on $1 million. It's not, you know what I mean, or $700,000. It's not that much. It's not enough. It's not going to change anything. It needs, like I keep saying, the problem is so big. They're not going to fix it with incremental stuff. It's not going to be a Stephen Harper fix who like to do incremental fixes. It's going to need huge fixing. And it really isn't. We're not there yet. Maybe they will do something. Like you said, the budget's not out. Maybe I think what they're trying to do is spend as little as they have to. And they're finding, well, like I said, Toronto tailspin. If Toronto, which is their largest city, goes into a tailspin, if they go into a tailspin, like in no sales and stuff like that, it follows. The bubble goes. And remember, we're always, like these housing market people, they're always gauging everything from 2024. In 2024, we know, 2020, the pandemic happened and everything exploded in prices, right? At the same time that we're losing more blue-collar work and stuff like that. There hasn't been an increase in jobs as much. And good-paying jobs. So that's where we're at here. Now we have the last part. I just personally think they're trying not to spend as much, which just makes sense. But if Toronto continues, like these seller people are not selling their condos and they're not building. Builders aren't building. That's the real problem. Builders, and then the first thing I read on an article on the News Legacy was they're saying, well, the problem is we overbuilt. That was they were saying at first. Like, no, that overbuilding is the problem. The problem is the pricing. That's it. The pricing is too high. It's well above what people earn to make it. It's not the problem of we didn't build, we overbuilt. No, there's a lot of demand. The demand is there. It's just that people are like, you know what, man, I'm not getting into this market. I'm not buying a place for 1-bedroom for $800,000. You know, for a 1-bedroom, what happens if any? You know what I mean? Like there's not ideal situations, and that's a lot of money that you're spending on it. People are like, well, I'll just try to commute and I'll buy a home. I'll stay where I'm at. And it's going to put it's already putting a damper on everything, and well, we'll see if anything happens. I personally don't have any hope for it. I'm hoping I can make this channel run again, but I don't have faith in that. I think that I got how many of us here? Look, I got 3 people on the line, and I'm going to cancel it again, right? Maybe we'll be working Toronto. But like I said, we got the dealers running the cop shops. It ain't no.
After 10 years of liberal anti-energy policies, the devastation continues. There's already been hundreds of thousands of job losses in the industry, and thanks to the radical ministers on the front bench, their oil and gas production cap has another 54,000 jobs and to over $20 billion on the chopping block. The Prime Minister campaigned on having a plan to get things built, yet he's already committed to not overturning the production cap. Is the Prime Minister's refusal to scrap the cap an admission that he supports this devastating policy?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, after seeing under the Conservative government nothing getting built, I think that we have some lessons to learn. What we learned is that you can't actually get results if you decide we're not going to do any environmental assessments, we're not going to be consulting with Indigenous peoples. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we build an effective, efficient assessment system that gets projects built. That's what we committed to do, and that is what we will do.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister was chair of Brookfield registered $30 billion of investment funds in offshore tax havens in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands, all to avoid paying taxes in Canada. And now the Prime Minister refuses to come clean and disclose his assets to Canadians. Canadians deserve to know, does the Prime Minister have any financial holdings hidden away in offshore tax havens, yes or no?
Great job, Cooper. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, Canadians should feel very reassured that we have among the most stringent ethics requirements for public office holders in the world. The Prime Minister has not only complied with all of those requirements, but has proactively and preemptively filed all of the information that the Ethics Commissioner requires. Obviously, complying with the rules is something we will always do on this side of the House.
That's right.
Canadians can bank on that.
Hear, hear. Honourable Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been anything but transparent, hiding behind a loophole in Canada's ethics laws to hide his assets from Canadians. And it really begs the question, why? Is it because Mr. Elbows Up himself is dodging paying taxes? Is that why?
Good question. Good question. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know that evoking conspiracy theories is going to advance the case of the Conservative Party. What I would say is, to repeat one more time, that Canadians should feel very reassured by the fact that we have among the most stringent ethics guidelines in the world, and the Prime Minister has not only met those requirements, but exceeded them.
I'm not saying liberalist and that, but I enjoy Stephen McKinnon. This is all just for in the window show stuff, right? So you know what I mean. Get over yourself for parties. But I do enjoy Stephen McKinnon's shoot back at everybody, and I always like Cooper. I enjoy Cooper. His rhetoric is you know, he seems to be very upset. And he's always usually on ethics files. I don't know if it sticks, this stuff to me about Carney, about where his previous life spent stuff. I don't think it sticks, but he's definitely, I do enjoy the way his rhetoric is, right? He's an enjoyable person to watch. And now we have, I got an MP Jolie question. Oh, 46 seconds late. I should have just left it there. No Brock today. All right. Oh, what was the number? Sorry. Hey, it's just three of us. I'm messing this up. 57. Food banks and Jolie. Oh, okay, so I'm a minute late.
Mr. Speaker, the first less in taxes cheap is Lévis.
Okay, here we go.
Mr. Speaker, who's profiting? Not Canadians, but external firms, consultants. There are 10,000 people in my riding lining up at food banks. Can we at least have the decency to table a budget this spring, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, currently our goal is to help those who are struggling to make ends meet. That's why we cut taxes. That's why we cut taxes for the middle class. We're also cutting the GST for those who are buying their first property. And as my colleague knows full well, we are currently in the middle of a tariff war. We are fighting to create jobs, to protect jobs that are currently under threat, and we are also here to invest to build the strongest economy in the G7.
Very upset. She put. She's a worker. She's a worker. I guess she started as a staffer, for an MP, and then she was an MP, and she led a question period. Didn't expect it. I was looking for Sheer or a more well-known name, but she's. I don't want to say sad. She's like Cooper. She hits hard, right? On the rhetoric, and she seems very upset. So this is she's the lead of it.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Liberals never learn and they never keep their promises. The Treasury Board president said in the last Parliament that she would find savings of $7.1 billion on high-paid consultants. Instead, this government is now spending another $6 billion on high-paid consultants. The Prime Minister said that he would limit increases in operational spending of no greater than 2%. Yet he's presented a $500 billion bill to Canadians. So who is the Prime Minister going to choose, Canadians or his friends? Right.
L'honorable ministre des Finances et du Revenu National.
Mr. Speaker, it is very clear we have already chosen Canadians, and Canadians have chosen us, Mr. Speaker, to lead this nation, to build a more ambitious Canada, to build a strong Canada, to build the best economy in the G7. Together on this side of the House, we're going to build the Canada of the future, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, that was pretty. He hit back he's. I don't think he's sticking his tongue at her. I think I just paused it at a very at a bad time. You know what I mean? It's definitely the Liberals are much more confident in their replies. And I think that the direction that they're taking is they're aware that more Canadians, you know what I mean, are more happy with it. They've taken a lot of the identity politics out and stuff like that. There's no international policies that is off lately. At least there's no ministers that said anything off, like the foreign affairs minister and stuff like that. Like I said earlier, there's only one real issue we have, and there's a little bit of too much rhetoric going around. It's anti-Semitic rhetoric that probably I think they need to work on through words. They need to give a little bit of rhetoric and maybe, you know what I mean. I don't think charges and jails and stuff like that is where we're at this country. I don't think it's at that level. I do think that maybe they should be trying to tone down this speech by giving out kind of caution, like that the housing minister, like giving out cautions, saying, in Canada we are not accepting this level of rhetoric against a certain individual group. That's my thinking on it. I'm probably, no, I think that a lot of people are. I think it's just getting too heated, and I understand where it's coming from. There's a war going on, and it's a lopsided war, and that's what they've created. The Hamas knew that it was lopsided, but remember, they still have their people. Like, I don't know what Canada would do to be. I don't want to go into it. I shouldn't talk about it at all, but. The last thing I'm going to say is Netanyahu. What would we want our politician to do? Just say, "Oh, forget it. Leave the people and leave it alone. Just let them take the people and do this horrible attack and let them stay." I don't know what they're doing to them. They're like entitled. Oh my God, it's been a long time. Like, if Hamas was so decent, they would just give up the people. But they're not. I don't know what happened. I literally stopped following it about 3 months ago because I seen this is just getting too bad. It's getting awful for both sides, and to follow it is just takes up too much of my time. And I'm a Canadian. I just don't really think that stuff should come here. Protesting it and is fine, but it's not a faith it's a problem. It's a country, right? It's different. I don't know. Just really, I would like them to do something about it. Like I said, give out cautions. Start having the police hand out cautions is what I believe, because I'd like to think that Canadians and new immigrants and new people are all reasonable people, and I think that solving things at the lowest, most peaceful way is when it's kind of cute, when it's kind of funny. You can get the hint across, you can get the point across without making it disastrous, like handing a fine to someone who may be already in a lot of people that are protesting, they're usually already in financial distress in some way a lot of times, or they're the activists and they're the ones getting paid. So, adding to that, you're just going to make more. But giving someone a caution, like, hey, you're in Canada, we're going to give you a notice to please stop. Or we'll give you another one. You know what I mean? And the person will go home. And then they'll probably most likely think, maybe I'll soften my tone. That's it. That's all that I think needs to do. Slow it down on the rhetoric. And, the protests, of course, they're a thing. I'm not an advocate for protests. I don't think I've never been to one. I remember when I was a kid, and I still am, but when we were in high school, we had these teachers that wanted and it was all the nerdy kids, like the goody-goody teachers, that the teachers were like getting the kids to go protest. They're like, oh, go protest. And I'm like, what? You're going to protest for a teacher? Like, wait a second here. Wait a second here. And then using that was my first example. They were using the kids to do their bidding to help this, and that's what I think a lot of happens in protests. It's always some guy in the back or girl in the back that's pushing some agenda, and it's the weaker, more feeble ones that are the ones that are going to pay the price. Blocking a highway was what they were like, go block the highway. I'm like, oh, frickin' block the highway. I think you guys get summer off and you do get paid too much money. I'm sorry, and you get a great pension. It's the best pension in the world. I think right now we can be taught by computers, like at least half of it, but that'll never happen. I shouldn't say that, but I'm not talking about lowering the amount of teachers' jobs, but anyway, I think online learning is a way to save a lot of money and use teachers to teach the world. Have our Canadian teachers teach countries around the world through AI. They all can work from home. It's better, I don't see a need to ever be within arm distance or touching distance and anywhere near of my math teacher. I don't know why I need to be in a classroom with my math teacher. I understand for children, but I think that we should be trying to move using technology. The pandemic there was a lot of flops, but there was a lot of lessons learned, I guarantee, on how to try to do this, change the way of school instead of paying for all these brick and mortars. Hey, and who doesn't want to work from home in their jammies, right? Not that I do, but who doesn't get to work in the, you know what I mean? Who wouldn't like to do that if it's possible? So I'm an advocate for it. Using the technology to make Canada a leader forward, and of course you can't have all of it at home, but I'd say like half the week is home. If in certain schools, right? Of course, some parents and both, if they're working, and right, but you could double the amount of kids in a school instantly, double it. The amount of kids that go to school, because half, you know what I mean, they go 2 days this week, and the next week they go 3, and then, there's another whole, raft of kids. Like, to me, it makes more sense and stuff. But that's just my silly thoughts. I'm trying to do things. So I do like the spiciness coming from the Liberals back. They don't have any errors much really right now. Guilbeault has been put in the back burner. They're talking about building. I don't think that their problems, their fixes are very expensive. The Conservatives are complaining about how much they're spending, and I don't think it's going to be enough to fix the problem. They're going to have to spend more, and they're going to take heat from the Conservatives. But like I said, in a year or 2 years where they're going to be they're in power for 2 years. So in 2 years' time, if these problems, the housing crisis, the opioid crisis, the jobs losses, if this is all continued, there's no way they'll win an election. It doesn't matter how much they spend. If they haven't fixed any of these problems, if they spend all kinds of money and none of these problems are fixed, that's even worse. But I think that there needs to be some pressure valves released, and the social media needs to be worked on. And the way they're dealing with it, they're like, well, we'll cancel the problem. The problem is there's folks that are making their whole living off of trashing people. You can't end people's thing. It's just they're always gonna find another person. They'll just like in the one movie, he's like, we'll just find. They're criminals. They're criminal activity, and they're using social media, and there's no stopping it. POTUS's wife. How do you call her? SCOTUS. Anyway, Melania Trump. She did a very good bill, which we should be having here. I don't know if we have something similar, but about child abuse, and it's like happening. Kids doing it to other kids stuff, right? And it's going to follow. It's going all the way, and it's happening to adults. I know it's happening to all kinds of people, right? It's happening in a large amount. All you have to do is make an unsubstantiated accusation, and then send it privately, secretly, serendipitously, like a rabbit hole. And people are all over rabbit holes right now by burying the conspiracy theory. People like Alex Jones and stuff, by burying them, they've just made them go underground, and it's worse. People are like, oh, no, I know. It's made it way. They've actually increased the problem tenfold by making it go underground, because people are still. It's not. You know what I mean? You don't even know when it's happening. It's like, oh, I got sent a message from I literally heard this. I got sent a message from my friend. Did you just? I'm like, what the frick? Where's this come from? I don't even want to talk to you anymore. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with you if you're just buying into some. But they're my friend, and I know them, and I trust them. Yeah, but what is this source? That's where we're at. And there's no way the police can stop it right now. They can't stop the online crime that's happening. It needs to be addressed, and I think it needs to be addressed in a way of allowing the conspiracy theorist type thing above board again, not burying them to what's that? Not rebel. It's this other web, going to other, not getting them out of YouTube and into a further and further. I don't want to name the name, actually. Further and further down the rabbit hole site, right? Like, they're still going to do it. People are still going to make the conspiracy theory. If there's any benefit, and like 10 likes is a benefit to people, it's happening. And the police, they can't keep it. Anyway, I think it needs to be addressed. And it needs to be addressed from a different way, and it's going to be very, very difficult. Throwing accusations and stuff like that needs to be a chargeable offense. That's what I think is the only way. Or a cautionary offense. It needs to be cautioned. Like I said, solve it at the lowest level. But right now, there's no disincentive to destroying someone's life online. And online is, you know what I mean? I got it. I think it happened. I got an email. For someone who asked me to do a collab, and then I sent something back, and I think before maybe the hack's gone, but then they're like, oh no, I heard something. I'm like, what? Through my email? I have no idea. This is literally the level, and no one is going to help out. It's no way. The police are underwater. It's just where we're at, and in feeding this beast, and without helping, without slowing it down, is really, there literally is outside countries that are trying to influence us into oblivion, right? And there was all those influencers that took all that money, and not one of them were charged, not one. Canadians, they're taking money from Russia to show. Well, it was always going to sow it anyway. Oh, okay. We're putting billions of dollars into Ukraine, and then they got to send $100,000 to a bunch of YouTubers, and now we have 1 million Canadians that just totally hate the Ukraine and hate any dollar going there. That's just how easily undermined our country is, because we're allowing social media to be encompassed by those without the country's interest at heart. And I'm not saying canceling is the way. That's not the way. I think exposure and cautionary. I've never got a cautionary from police, but I literally demonetized without a warning. They're supposed to get 3 strikes. I don't know. They just demonetize you. They say they talk for 2 hours. They say you're not adding enough content. They're just basically is that they're saying is guaranteed. You're just not worth it. We've got. I know I had this. I had these people who joined as a member and they all left in a single unified unit. And then the next day I was demonetized. That's what happened. Done. Or maybe it had something to do with getting elected. I don't know. But I'm still alive. And why? Anyway, that's where we're at. That was where we're at. Okay. No one's talking. Just me. So I think that the Liberals are doing a pretty good argument. They have a lot of work to do. And I personally, I think the answer is really, really simple. They have to stop thinking for the investor class. They're going to be fine. They're fine, the investor class, but the blue-collar class, where the tax base is, the reason why we can't afford the schools, the hospitals, the policing, is the province isn't getting enough money because investors pay less percentage of money. Yeah, they make a lot more money, but they pay less percentage of their income than a hourly rate person. Those hourly rate jobs have been going down, and to a large degree, a very large degree. You know, there is work. It's not like it's dire straits. At the same time, pricing of homes are going up, and the average just schmuck kind of guy, basically their answer is go on fentanyl. Go live in a frickin' tent and there's fentanyl. Like that's where we're at in this country. And it's clicks. We're into clicks now. You got to get into a click. Factory work wasn't about getting clicks. What you have to have is more jobs than people, and it can destroy